So I'm just gonna try to form the start of this YouTube channel as more of uh, I guess, a diary on trying to fix my health issues. Um, I've had a lot of symptoms that resemble pre-diabetes, and I can't deny that I'm probably a pre-diabetic at this point. And these symptoms are have really culminated in a way where they've had a heavily negative effect on my mental health. So I have to try and fix them. And over the last year, I've made a lot of progress towards fixing one issue that was incredibly debilitating, and it was an issue with my hands, an issue that had been ongoing for over 10 years. And I figured out a solution for that issue, and that solution was to do an elimination diet. And I found out that I'm allergic to apparently most fruits. So bananas, oranges, apples, pineapples. These fruits have an inflammatory effect on my skin. Bananas being the worst of them all, and the other ones being they'll trigger hives, but they won't crack my skin like bananas can. But over the years, my pre-diabetic symptoms, I'm not diagnosed, but I will show pictures, and through the pictures you can see that my health is obviously not good, and I do have a lot of symptoms that resemble what prediabetes is. And I was also in a weight range that would put me at a very high risk of it. So I have to just assume that that's what it is. I'm going to treat it like that's what it is, and that's how I'll approach this situation because I don't have access to healthcare. And if I did go see a doctor, they would charge a lot of money just for me to get the answers that could help me, and to get on the treatments that would help me would be incredibly expensive. We're just not in that place right now. So here I wrote, I believe I'm pre-diabetic because I've had slow healing wounds on and off for years. This has been a big issue. I've had certain wounds take months to heal. It got to a point where I could rub my hand on a desk the wrong way and it would cause a cut. My skin was very brittle. Instead of just reading this, I'll just so I'd have slow healing wounds. I had dark patches on my skin, and yeah, my skin was just not in a good place back then. I had a point where I did get healthier in my mid 20s where I chose to lose the weight, and I saw my skin improve and my health overall improved dramatically when I started eating healthier and exercising. And I got a bit overexcited and I went a little too hard, which led to me injuring my knees, which prevented me from being able to exercise because without the use of my legs, there was no real way I could exercise in the way that I wanted to exercise. I couldn't walk, I couldn't ride my bike, I couldn't go to the gym and lift weights. I was basically stuck on the couch. So what happened was I was jump roping and I was still too heavy to be doing high impact exercises like that. And I think I wore my cartilage down to my knees. Like I would not allow the cartilage to recover its fluid, like the synovial fluid in my knees. And so when it got to a point where I was jump roping and it felt like my knees were just hitting each other, like the bones would hit each other, and all it took was me taking a step the wrong way, and I pinched a nerve in there, and I really couldn't even walk for about 3 to 4 months. I don't know if I pinched a nerve or something else. I'm pretty sure it was a pinched nerve because all I really had to do was not exercise for 4 months, and it completely healed up. I can put weight on my knees now. It really isn't an issue. But if I tried to run, say 5 miles, which I can do because I have the fitness to do it, the cardiovascular fitness from riding my bike a lot. What I don't have is the ability to do that and recover quickly because my knees just cannot handle it. I'm still too heavy. I'm 240, 5'10", and my knees just can't handle that kind of workload. So another reason I think I'm pre-diabetic is because I developed blurry vision, um, I would say about 3 years ago, and it gets worse whenever I consume a certain amount of carbs, and it's very hard to understand how it's being triggered because I could eat low carb and still have blurry vision. The only thing that's been able to actually make the blurry vision go away is when I start weightlifting. Weightlifting is not my favorite thing to do, but when I found out that the blurry vision goes away when I weightlift for about a month, it was like a real revelation. It was the best thing I could have found out because I've known for all 3 years that this isn't an issue that's permanent. I can get rid of it because it would come and go. And I saw the biggest improvement when I started weightlifting again. And from what I've read, it's because if the issue is I have too much glucose in my blood, then weightlifting creates a need for glucose in the muscles because weightlifting uses glucose in the muscles, and thus that glucose needs to be replaced, so it takes it from my bloodstream instead of letting the glucose just float around and be stored in my eyes, which is likely what's causing the blurry vision. And so as long as I weightlift, I can get rid of it. The issue is I don't like weightlifting. I don't like the soreness that prevents me from riding my bike or going outside and really enjoying being outside. I don't like the process of waking up to go do it. I would rather ride my bike for 50 miles than spend a day in the gym weightlifting, but I have to incorporate weightlifting into my life if I'm to get rid of the blurry vision, because blurry vision is very depressing. It's not something I want to develop into a permanent issue where I now need glasses for the rest of my life. There's honestly so many symptoms I've had over the years. I've had the blurry vision, the darker skin, I've had slow healing wounds, I've had poor recovery, I've had insomnia. Um, Although the insomnia was also caused by poor stress management. I used to have the worst stress management ever. I've also had insomnia caused by the times where I did diet and I underate and overexerted myself. So I would not replace the nutrition I used during exercise through diet. And because of that, it caused a situation where my body would be in fight or flight mode all the time. So in 2022, I lost about 150 pounds, and I did it by, quite honestly, looking back, the way I did it, it was pretty much an eating disorder. So I would eat one meal a day, and then I actually started off eating about 2 meals a day. So I'd start with a breakfast, which was about roasted potatoes, homemade guacamole on toast, and with an egg on top. And that was my breakfast. It was great. I'd eat that, and then I'd do some weightlifting with resistance bands before the weather got good. I live in Washington, so the weather is bad most of the year. And then for my last meal, which was my second meal, I would eat just a normal East African breakfast like beans, flatbread and some protein like meat or chicken. And this was fine. I lost about 30 to 40 pounds doing this. It took about 3 months. But then when the weather got good, I got ahead of myself. I think I have an addictive personality in a way because uh, whether I'm addicted to food or exercise, whether I'm addicted to food because of the dopamine hit that I would get from eating food, how it would almost seem like it's treating the negative emotion with just that initial bite and the enjoyment I'd feel after or while consuming a meal, but the depression I'd feel afterwards because I was for sure overeating when I was above 300 pounds, which is what I came down from when I lost 150. Um, with exercise, especially cardio, I get that rush of endorphins. Like it feels great to be in that state where I'm sweating and pedaling hard. It's just it's a definite high, and I can't deny that I got addicted to that. I also got addicted to it because the more I lost weight, the faster I became on my bike, and that gave me a positive and a negative feedback loop because I would shoot to lose as much weight possible so that I'd get faster on the bike. And not only was I faster on the bike, but I recovered faster and I was able to ride more often than I ever have, quite honestly. I went from only doing 10 miles a day to 20 to then 30. And by the end of the summer, I did a 60-mile ride. I could have done more, but I didn't know how to plan my rides. And I'm getting better at that, but I didn't know how to plan a longer ride. It was just my goal to ride to some lake in Seattle and then back. And I was able to do it, although I did fall towards the end because I bumped into a trash can. So that was pretty embarrassing. But what I was saying is I do have an addicted personality, and when I lost that 150 pounds, I did it wrong because I was only eating about 1,200 calories a day, and then I would burn through exercise around 1,500. And so my body every single day was in a state of fight or flight. I was in a state of starvation, quite honestly, because whenever nighttime came, I would not be able to sleep. And if I did fall asleep, it was because I passed out, and I'd pass out for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then I'd wake up fully alert and ready to go, as if it was almost like someone gave me a cup of coffee. And I'm personally not a caffeine drinker, so. And during that time, when I did lose the weight, coffee actually started affecting me for the first time in my life. It started actually giving me the spike of energy rather than making me feel drowsy. That was another interesting thing that I saw. But my sleep was bad. I I couldn't really sleep. Although I felt alert when I woke up, I couldn't focus on anything. I could get on a bike and ride effectively, but I could not sit down and say read an article or a book or really concentrate on doing anything productive that didn't involve me moving around. And it was a very interesting feeling because I thought to myself, I should feel exhausted right now. But I was wide awake when I got out of bed. I would go to sleep with my mind racing, and I would wake up with my mind racing. And it was a terrible state to be in because not only could I not focus on anything productive when sitting down, but I also couldn't, like, my mood was messed up. I couldn't really be around people that often because I'd either be very excited and happy or incredibly depressed, and it could switch like that. It could switch in an instant. A bad thought could send me from feeling like I could conquer the world to just feeling completely down in the dumps. And I don't want to return to that. I believe that was a very unhealthy way to lose weight. Although it did get me out of the 350-pound range, and I've kept most of the weight off. And it really did teach me to have a better association with food, because it taught me, one, how to meal prep and the importance of meal prepping. So when I meal prepped, I never had an excuse to eat something that wasn't healthy, because there was always a meal prepared that I could get that was completely healthy, and all I had to do was reheat it. And it also taught me that I was eating far more than I needed to eat. And although I already knew this, I saw that my body could run on just one meal, and I'd be okay for at least half the day, but my nights were horrible. I could not sleep. I went to sleep hungry so many days. It was easily the dumbest thing I've ever done to lose weight, and I wish I would have done it the way I did in my mid-20s, where I did intermittent fasting, but I ate 3 meals a day, and I didn't deny myself 3 meals a day. I just ate very healthy. Back then, I ate brown rice, broccoli, cauliflower, and chicken. But even then, it was unsustainable, because I didn't like eating that stuff. It wasn't like, it didn't taste that great. It was very unsustainable in the sense I knew when I was eating that way, it was only to lose weight and nothing else. I also knew when I was doing OMAD, it was only to lose weight and nothing else. I knew both these were unsustainable, but the nutritional deficiencies I had during OMAD were terrible. And also during OMAD, I get lightheaded standing up. I fainted a couple times. It was a scary point, quite honestly, and I don't want to return to that, but it did help me narrow down some things that were making my eczema a lot worse. Interestingly, when I stopped doing OMAD, and a lot of bad things happened between late 2022 to 2024, and when I started increasing my meal frequency, I had ups and downs in energy like I'd never seen before. Especially when I tried to do multiple small meals, I just have spikes and crashes and spikes and crashes. But looking back, I believe these were being caused by my lack of sleep, because I hadn't gotten back into a normal sleep schedule yet. I wasn't able to have restful sleep. But when I did start having restful sleep again, the small meals didn't have those big valleys and peaks and valleys like they were when I was having poor sleep. I also had a lot of issues with waking up in the middle of the night. Like, I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and not be able to go back to sleep. I'd have night sweats, and I track some of these issues down to just the low blood sugar. I have a blood sugar issue. I don't know how to really control it. I've tried having something with protein and fat before bed, and it sometimes works, but it sometimes doesn't. I really don't know what to do about it. I've tried not eating before bed. I've tried doing that, but then I just wake up hungry and I can't go back to sleep anyway. It's very strange. There's a lot of issues going on, and quite honestly, I don't know even how to fit all these things into one video. So what I'm just gonna do is I'm going to try and cut this video down as much as I can and try to solve each one of these issues by targeting them as specifically as I possibly can, but with a process of elimination, because that's the only thing that can work, because that's the only thing I really have access to, and so that's what I'll do. But yeah, it's been a rough, I would say, 2 to 3 years with weight loss. But I've seen I can lose. Not only did I lose the weight, but I can maintain. I can keep it off. But I'm finding it very difficult to not gain, or I'm finding it very difficult to lose the weight without doing some sort of extreme diet. It's very hard. I really don't know. Like I don't know how to get this done, quite honestly, because OMAD was so effective only because it starved me. It forced my body to just eat away at all almost all the fat I had. I mean, I looked thin from doing OMAD, but I also lost a tremendous amount of muscle because you don't get to choose what your body goes after when it's in a state of starvation. It went after fat, it went after muscle. My skin even started to get tighter, which wasn't actually a bad thing considering I had lost so much weight and I didn't want to have a ton of loose skin. So that was actually a positive, but it ate at the fat, the muscle, the skin. And by the end of the weight loss, I honestly didn't feel great off a bike. On a bike, I felt amazing. I was light, I was faster. Weight loss is the best thing you can do to get faster on a bicycle or even as a runner. But off a bicycle, just walking around, lifting stuff, putting it down, trying to jog, I felt flabby. I felt just weak. I remember I tried to run across a crosswalk once, and it was honestly pretty embarrassing. I thought to myself, shouldn't I feel light on my feet by now? And I didn't, because I had lost a tremendous amount of muscle. So I do not want to return to that diet. I want to strength train so I can gain back most of the muscle I lost, which I've gained back by now actually. And I want to keep putting on muscle to a certain extent, but I don't want to get heavy. I don't want to put muscle on my body and get heavy, because my favorite forms of exercising do not benefit from me being heavy. I actually need to be light on my feet if I want to do those things better than I ever have. So it's going to be a difficult thing to figure out, because it's easy to lose weight when you're starving yourself. It's a lot harder to lose weight in a sustainable way long term. And that's what I need to figure out. Anyway, that's the end of this video, and I'll try to edit this in a way where it's not 1 hour long.